In this video, Eric came to me with a plan to build a Go High Level agency. We cover things like how to find and connect with new prospects of local trade businesses, how to build a script that lands on the telephone, how to take prospects through from cold through to meeting booked, and how to master your mindset whilst cold calling. So, what do you want to get out of this call? What do you want to have happen by the end of it?
Yeah, so I'm still in the planning phase. I can't act like I'm a full-time cold caller or anything.
Okay.
But in the interest of full preparation, I think that the area that I'm interested in, cold calling, would be the best sort of channel of prospecting. I don't think you get much back from emails or this and that, or ads is obviously just spending money and that. So in terms of what's actually in my control to do with pushing this forward, I think cold calling is the number one, and getting a good process flow, obviously opener, this and that, just the whole flow of the cold call. I think that will be
Okay.
good, but also process from there, I think would also be good to get a general understanding of, because I've seen lots of different people on the internet. They've got a few different processes, this and that. A lot of them are Americans. You're obviously more experienced within the UK market, so it'd be good to get your general opinion on that. And to be fair, I'd even be happy to do like a bit of a role play. To be fair, because I don't even have any live calls I've sent you over. So if you think that would make for some good content, I'd be happy for that as well.
Yeah, happy to. Happy to. Out of interest, what is your experience so far with cold calling? Where are you sort of up to?
So I've had a job like a few years back when I was in uni doing summers. And I was like cold calling across the UK, America, a lot of Europe, but it wasn't for like selling. It was for basically getting surveys for like car manufacturers and this and that. So it was like a totally different dynamic than sales in a sense. But I've still got a spreadsheet where I've got to hammer through the whole list on a cold call, etc. So it's a little bit of different dynamic, but yeah, I've definitely got some experience I need to build to do with the sales dynamic.
And you had no issues picking up the phone and
I
sort of
don't, yeah,
cracking on with it?
yeah, I think the mindset thing I can get through it more. So at least it's easy to say that now. Maybe I'd like to hear your thoughts on that whole situation a bit later as well.
Well, I mean, it's 80% of the battle, right? There's a lot of people out there who kind of fall at the first hurdle, which is being a bit scared to pick up the phone, talking to strangers, talking to busy, important people. So, I mean, if
Yeah,
you can do that, you're sort of like going to the gym, isn't it? 90% of the battle's getting there. Then after that, you just got to keep turning up and do something whilst you're in there, right? And then you just
yeah.
optimize from there. If you don't go, you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot. So if you've kind of have no issues around that, you're already in good stead, ahead of most people.
I have hope there for now. That's what I could say. Maybe it's different once you get going, but for now I've got hope.
Hope, blind faith, we all need it, hey? Especially when we're starting out new ventures, right? You got to have that little bit of
Yeah.
blind faith and you got to be a little bit delusional. Cool. So with this business, what is your goals financially? What fast forward 12 months, where do you want to be with it?
So end goal is obviously freedom in a sense. You know what I mean? I need to become unemployable. Maybe you know what that's like. Um, So yeah, landing enough clients to where I can, just have ownership of my time. Obviously, you're not going to be free and got your feet up all day. You're going to have stuff to be doing and this and that, and it's going to be running a business. But I need my own agency. Like being inside a corporate system is not really too much for me. I feel these days. So yeah, to build my financial freedom to a sense, like obviously initially I don't need to hit any crazy numbers, but just enough to actually live my life and not be dependent on a corporate organization or something like that. What that could look like for numbers, let's say what I'd be happy with in a year's time. I'd be happy with 5K a month net, like within a year's time. I think that could be reasonable for that. And maybe I could even surpass that as well, but happy to be realistic. And then from there, I would assume I could continue to grow as well.
Yeah, no, sounds like you're a ambitious guy and want to break free of the sort of the corporate system. Okay. So what is sort of holding you back from like I know you're still at sort of concept stage right now. What's holding you back from getting there?
So I'm currently on the corporate clock right now, but that situation is due to come to an end within a month and a half. And from there, what's holding me back? I'd say not much, to be fair. I plan to actually just dive into this one and yeah, get it going. So obviously building up the whole process and the whole offer stage, like yeah, sales and prospecting is obviously a big part of it. Then on the delivery end, I've chosen to go with Go High Level. I think that what that offers and what that can service, I think there's a real market here within the UK. It starts to get a little bit saturated. I feel already, when you go on TikTok and you see these people calling up these local businesses and this and that. But I do believe there's a real market to be served here for someone who's serious. So in terms of what's holding me back, just a bit of time for the moment, but I do plan to get going.
Okay, cool. So are you going to start after you've finished, or are you going to get going as soon as possible?
Yeah, so the way Go High Level works is you need a subscription. It's like 300 USD a month, and it's like while I'm a bit one foot in, one foot out at the moment, I just feel to get everything lined up well, so then I can properly dive in once it starts. So to do with all the cold calling, yeah, that will probably be like a month away until I really start hammering it.
Okay, okay. And you say getting things lined up. What does getting things lined up look like?
The offer website, like me also learning the delivery of how to deliver all of these systems and yeah, knowing like the leads list, etc., which niches to target perhaps. Yeah, getting the exact offer lined up, stuff like that.
Okay, cool. All right. So cold calling is the aim to get new business. You're going to be building a go high level agency. First year, you want to get to about 5K a month. Be running your own agency, sort of a one man band, targeting local trade firms and service based businesses.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
okay? Cool. So with this, where do you want to start? What sort of questions do you want to start diving into first of all?
Maybe if we could sort of go through like a bit of an opening sort of script first, and then once that's done, I've got some questions for you obviously as well, but yeah, to just get the general cold call script flow going, I think that could be useful.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of script and openers, what ideas do you have so far?
Do you know what I did? And to be fair, this is a bit of a shout out to anyone else that watches your content. You can put in one of your YouTube videos, like there was a 2 hour long one to do with all of those cold calls. You get the transcript for it, you upload it with ChatGPT, and you pair it with your own offer. Then you can get the Joe Gandy flow of your own offer. So I did something a little bit like that. I mean, I'm obviously less experienced with cold calling, so I would, by every assumption, assume that even if I can plug in your flow, that's going to be a lot better than what I could come up with from the top of my head. So I've done something like that for now, but yeah, it'd be good to get your input on it
Yeah.
nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly. GPT can be a useful tool. Um, it's just use it, but use it with caution because GPT is sort of like vernacular. It's not always real world. What we're doing with the cold call script and the opener is we need to real world it. We need to
Yeah,
enter the conversation that's sort of happening in our prospect's head and understand the symptoms and the problems. And GPT can help guide that. But from what I've seen of it so far, it's not perfect, but it's great for some ideas. So what with the opener? What's your Joe Gandy opener?
so to be fair, to do with the very first opener, this is something I've got a question about. So if I'm using, you obviously use like Lusher and those for your prospecting, right? Where you've got a name behind it. If I'm using Google Maps, for example, and you just got the business name and the phone call, first of all, you don't know the name of the person on the other end, and you also don't know if they're an owner or a decision maker. So I might say, "Hi, is that the owner of blah blah plumbing?" For example.
Yeah.
What do you think of that in terms of the context of where I'm getting the leads from?
Yeah, you've got sort of two approaches. Um, One, if you can't find their information anywhere, yeah, Google Maps alone, especially for these small, like one man band tradespeople that don't almost have their names linked to that Google Maps, what you might want to do is if you open, see, I've called plumbers before and they're pretty open to having conversations, right? If you do that, it does help having their name at the beginning of the call and saying, is that blah, blah, blah. And one way you can obtain that is calling them 1 week and just asking and getting them to try and correct you. So call
Proper
up and
long game.
say, have I called blah, blah, blah plumbing agency? Got it. And, oh, is this John the owner? No, I'm the owner. My name's Jeff. Okay, brilliant. And then end the call there, log the name, call them back in a week's time, and then go, is that John? You're probably going to hate me. Because having the number, the name, first of all, is just a bit of useful. You can get away with just I have done it before where you can just go like, oh yeah, is that the owner of blah blah blah? And they'll go, yes. I go, you're probably gonna hate me. It's a sales call. Not sure if you want to hang up or let me have 30 seconds. Having the name just helps that a little bit more. The other way you can do it is take the agency, the plumbing firm from Google Maps, typing it in on company's house, or just typing it in on somewhere else and actually just seeing if they've got a website, seeing if they've been anywhere else online, and then getting the name that way. It does require an extra step, but I'd suggest it does help a little bit, just around sort of like the familiarity with having the person's name, right? Because
Yeah.
these people, the owners usually do pick up the phone of these small trades businesses, because they are usually the one that's doing the work and also finding new, waiting for calls for new business. But you can sort of go down both routes, and I'd suggest testing both of them, seeing
So
which
with
one
that
gets
said,
you more conversations.
then say for example, if you found a name and you don't know who's going to pick up the phone, would you just say, "Hi, am I through to John?" Something like
Yeah,
that. Okay.
but reference the company name. I'd go negative as well. Have I called the wrong number? This isn't John from Johnson's Plumbing. And they'll go, you're through to Johnson's Plumbing, but it's not John. Oh, sorry, who am I speaking to? And then they'll tell you the name. Questions are so important. People are programmed to answer questions. So, but going negative is sort of better than asking a positive frame question, because when you ask someone a yes question, they sort of go yes. But if you go, have I got it wrong? They'll go, no, 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 it's not wrong. And then they'll tell you, they'll correct you. You
Yeah,
just got to play a little bit stupid and own it. But if you do it in the form of a question, they'll correct you and they'll feel good. And then you can use that information you've got.
that makes sense. And then from there, yeah, probably just go with, "You're probably going to hate me for this." As a sales call. Not sure if you want to hang up or give me 30 seconds. Up to you. I think that's a bit of a classic. Sounds like it works well for you.
Yeah, it works well.
Maybe maybe the whole country is going to be saying that in not too long, but for now it seems a bit niche. um, Otherwise, then it's like, "Nice one, I'll keep it brief." And then I get invited in. I think I get invited in. That's probably good. I feel like you put some thought behind that. It's better than "I help" or "I work with local businesses." Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Your
yeah, I get
language is important. Yeah. Invited in is just a little bit more nuanced, right?
cool. Yeah, so I get invited in by local businesses, plumbers, heating engineers, electricians, that sort of thing. But the actual work is usually good, but the online side is not doing enough. The way people choose local businesses these days has changed. Someone searches for service in town near me. Google gives them a few options, and before they ever call anyone, they're judging it from the Google profile, reviews, website, service pages, and how easy it is to get in touch. The issue I usually see is good businesses are often better in real life than they look online. They may have good reviews and happy customers, but their website, Google profile, and inquiry flow, missed call handling, so they're not getting found as much as they could be, not getting chosen as much as they should, or not turning enough local interest into booked work. But you're probably going to tell me that all of that is already perfect and there's nothing to improve.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on it?
So it's definitely not very polished. You can probably tell I've not practiced it too much as of right now. But to do with the general flow, I think it's okay. I think towards the end, to do with, the negative framing again, something I picked up from yourself as well. I think that's probably good. But yeah, I'm sure it could use some optimization in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. What we need to do is sort of enter the conversation that's happening in their head, right, and focus in on the symptoms, right? If I'm suffering from a headache, what are the symptoms of a headache? Oh, sorry. If I'm suffering, if I'm trying to sell paracetamol, sorry, I've got a headache clearly. If I'm selling paracetamol, what are the symptoms of paracetamol? Like to allude that paracetamol's a solution.
Okay.
What would sort of my ideal customers be suffering from?
In this case, I would say like it's a lead gen situation, right? It's a new business one where they're not getting found a bit. Although it's not pure SEO, it's sort of like mixed packaged across a few things. Like their website's not converting, for example, they're missing calls, they're not showing up high enough on Google. So it's a little bit of a mixed
Yeah.
package throughout all of that. But you might be able to say that they're not getting organic deal flow from the internet, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it's a very tough one because you don't want to alienate them, right? And say like, oh, they're not getting found online because people will argue and say, no, I'm getting found online just fine because they'll play into their ego. You want to say maybe they're doing lots of quotes and proposals that are perhaps they're not getting responses from or they're not going anywhere. So I believe high level's got a lot of features around that. Like these guys go off and they quote all day, all evening, don't they? And then they wait for people to get back to them, and then they've got this big system of people they've done proposals or quotes for them. They just haven't heard back from them, and they're not very good at following up. Um, Others are just running around like headless chickens on site, and they don't really have time to follow up with people. And like they're managing maybe their whole business in their heads and not on a piece of paper, which is really hard for them to get. They find it easy to forget things. Um, Busy out on site, so they often miss calls, which is costing them jobs. We got to keep it really simple because saying things like um, oh yeah, that they don't have an online presence, it's too broad. That makes sense. We need to get quite specific with the symptoms that we're talking about. For example, a headache, easily recognizable. Sore throat, easily recognizable. Having an online presence isn't necessarily a symptom. We got to think about what are the symptoms of not having an online presence. It might be maybe they get a lot of work through referrals, but if they're honest, they don't get that many people inquiring through the telephone.
Okay. That makes sense. So to do with like qualifying questions there, to do with, for example, one of them would be contact to the website, right? I guess if they've got their mobile phone linked to the Google profile, would they even know, for example, which calls are coming from Google and which ones aren't? Probably not, right?
No. But when you're speaking to these people, you've got to think about what's important to them.
Yeah,
If you're going after small local trades businesses, do they care about it if they're at that size? Because what we're talking about there is attributing revenue, right?
yeah.
Which is important when you might be I don't know, a trades business with 20 people and you've got a marketing function where you're doing loads of different channels. But if we're going after these smaller local ones with maybe five or less employees, they might not be that bothered about attributing revenue. So we've got to make sure we're talking about the symptoms that are specific to our ideal customers.
Okay.
So, for
And those
example, like
symptoms,
if they're out there on the job, they're working, their phone rings a lot. They know it could be someone, but they're busy in the middle of a job. They miss the call and they call someone back and they can't get hold of them, which can be quite frustrating. They'll try once or twice and never hear back. And as a result, they're missing out on revenue.
yeah, that makes sense. And then ROI framing would probably be good there as well, right? You ask them like how much is a job worth to you, and then they'll let you know. And then, for example, if you miss a call, then potential customer just gone somewhere else. What's the lifetime value of that customer? How often do your customers like keep repeating? What's the potential of that customer then referring to someone else? There's potentially a lot of missed revenue there. Potentially that ROI framing, is that something that's good on the call?
This is good stuff. However, I wouldn't do it too early on a cold call. This might be
Yeah.
better stuff when you're actually sat down in front of someone.
Okay.
The whole purpose of a cold call is to find out if someone's emotional about a problem, right? And that there's a genuine reason or a level of motivation for them to want to fix it, right? Once we then get in front of them and have a meeting, this is where we want to really do a deep dive and quantify the problem. There's not a massive need to do it on the call, on the cold call. You want to sit down and do that with them when you're sitting in front of them on a one-to-one basis.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we need to understand how much is it frustrating them? Like what are kind of indicators? Are they doing anything to try and fix it? Have they closed their mind to try and fix it? How long have they recognized this issue for? These are all indicators of how much of a big problem it is for them and whether there's a genuine reason why they want to meet with you to discuss those further things that you talked about then.
That makes sense. I feel like with this one specifically, because it's a little bit broad across online presence, it's a little bit hard to diagnose that exact pain because there's
Yeah.
maybe a lack of education to do with people don't know how much an online presence does for you. So
Yeah,
it's maybe a bit more than
I'd be careful, Eric, with your wording. So read me your hook for the script again.
the hook. Which bit was that? The bit at the
So
end.
sorry, the first line of the 30-second pitch.
So I get invited in by local service businesses, plumbers, heating engineers, electricians, pest control firms, that sort of thing. Well, the actual work is usually good, but the online side is not doing enough.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. I'd maybe allude to the fact that we speak to plumbers. What you want to do is, if you're speaking to a plumber on the phone, say we speak to plumbers, right?
Yeah.
Don't say we speak to plumbers, heating engineers, or pest
Oh, I
control.
got you.
Don't.
Yeah.
So first of all, be
Rude.
specific to the person. Be a little bit dynamic when you're on that call, and you want to give them a little bit of a stroke, what like a bit of a compliment, like for them to say, "Yeah, that sounds like me." Who are getting a lot of work through referrals, but if they're honest, they're maybe not getting as many inquiries through other channels as they'd like.
Okay.
They maybe come to us saying that when they do get inquiries through that come in through the telephone, it's very easy for them to miss as they're on the job, as they're doing the job. Then they'll try calling back and they can't get hold of the person.
Okay.
Others do loads of quotes and proposals, but if they're honest, they don't hear back from three-quarters of them, which is quite frustrating. Feels like they're wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we need to just the hook to be a top line summary that will then flow into the three um, symptoms. And you got to
Yeah,
keep
that
the
makes
language
sense.
really simple.
Okay. So let's say I'll incorporate that one then. And then after we do the whole, but you're probably going to tell me all of that's already perfect and there's nothing to improve. Then let's just say in the event that they're like, no, some of those resonate. And then from there, would the flow be to, out of those areas, which resonates most or start narrowing it down? Or what do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then what you want to do is you want to get them to pick a specific symptom because they're going to pick the one that's either happened the most recently or is the biggest frustration to them.
Okay.
And then once they've picked that, we want to start drilling down into that and understanding how much it is frustrating them. Just a little touch on the push away question, especially with local trades businesses. They're not that corporate, right?
Yeah.
They're You want to say it in a bit of a sarcastic tone. I get the feeling you're going to tell me you don't relate to or recognize any of those.
Yeah.
No, no, of course I do, you dick. Because if you say it in a bit of a flat tone, like I get the feeling you're going to tell me you don't relate to or recognize those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is acting. So you just got to say it in
Yeah, I
the
totally
tone that
hear it.
matches the people you're trying to go after. These are Jack the lads out on site. They don't give a f about effing and jeffing on site, do they? They'll do that all day long. So you've got to match that style. People buy from people like them.
Yeah, I totally hear that. As of right now, I agree my acting is not doing that for me, but I hope that once things kick off here, I can adopt that
Yeah,
as well.
cool. So you were asking about the question. What was your question about questions?
So yeah, then it would follow up, get a specific symptom. That might be if you had to pick one, which resonates the most. Is it getting found more on Google, looking more credible when people compare you against other local businesses, turning website visitors into call or quote requests, following up missed calls, or getting more reviews from completed jobs? That sounds like a lot to just read out all of those six just there. Like, how would you frame that whole situation?
So we're talking about the six different symptoms
Yeah.
in the script. So what you do is, yeah, you have a list of all the symptoms you can think of, but what you'll do as you do more and more cold calls is you want to use sort of the rule of three. You know how the brain loves things in threes. You want to first of all make an educate because you haven't got any track record of having any customers. You want to take an educated guess of what you think are the ones that are statistically the most likely to resonate with people, and use those three. But as you start having conversations with people, people are going to start lobbing stuff at you or choosing like different ones. And over time, you will then understand what are the three biggest challenges that people relate to or recognize. And then they're the ones you want to use. So you start with a list of 6 or 7, but the more you call and the more conversations you have, you'll be able to refine it down and say, these are the three that are the biggest problems for people that I speak to. And they're the three you will use in your script.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, for example, me, it's not enough meetings in the diary, work with agencies who have overpromised and underdelivered. They're just the two biggest ones. So I use those two.
Yeah, I feel like that agencies that have overpromised and undelivered. Do you think that could work in this case as well? Because it is a bit of a similar sort of situation, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
It could work. With that one though, you've just got to push really hard to. So it's a good one because people will love bitching and moaning about that, and there'll be a lot of emotion. And emotion is just simply reasons for people to move, right? But what we got to do is you got to push away hard, and you got to say like, look, you've been burnt before by an agency. Have you closed your mind to working with an agency, even if you believe they could help you? You got to push that one hard because some people, when they do have bad experiences, they then believe that everyone out there is like that, right? And they're a little bit more skeptical. So you've got to understand if that is something they can move through, like move
yeah,
past.
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that closed off one. That one seems to work quite well for you in your calls. So
Oh,
I'll
it's
be sure to
fantastic.
adopt
No one
that.
really ever admits to closing their mind. That like no one likes being seen as someone who's closed-minded. Like it's kind of just a bit of a human heuristic. We love being open-minded people, but there is the occasional person who says, "Yes, I have closed my mind." All right, well, I don't want to meet with you then. I don't want to waste my time sitting with someone
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
closed their mind.
yeah. So after closed mind, then they're like no, and then with all of that being said, would you be opposed to setting up an exploratory call? Is that like a good time for that one? Maybe a
So
bit of fluff in between.
after you want to ask 3 or 4 different questions that grind them down to emotion. After they've picked a symptom, you want to find how long has this been happening for, or how many times, if it's something, for example, missed calls, how many times has this happened for you recently? So you're quantifying it to an extent, but you're just understanding how big. You're not digging down into how much those costed, blah blah blah. What have they done to try and fix this? Because that's an indicator of motivation, right? If it's happened to them, and then they've gone out and tried to do something to prevent it happening again, but that hasn't worked, it's a sign that they're trying to do things to improve it. So there's more of a reason that they will meet with you.
Yeah.
And then a question like, what's stopping you from fixing this, sir? Because this
And then
is
they're going
this
to
is
say they don't have
emotion.
time or
Yeah.
something.
And then okay, then you've got something. Okay, so now I understand how many times it's happened, what you've done to try and fix it, and what's getting in the way from you being able to fix this. Okay, well look, I understand your time strap. Let's pretend someone could do this for you that wasn't very time consuming for you, didn't take that away. Have you closed your mind to believing anyone can help you do it? No. Okay. Is there any reason you wouldn't invite me in for 30 minutes on a call to explore this, see if I can help, and then roll into it from there?
I see. And then you like to say about, and you wouldn't mind if after the call, if I didn't see there was a fit, something about you better say no or something like that.
Yeah, because what you're doing there, you're establishing equal business stature.
Yeah,
You're getting them to say no, and you're saying you can say no to them as well, right? Because you've got to sound, in order to get treated differently, you've got to sound and act and behave differently.
yeah,
So saying that, going for no, it actually makes them feel more comfortable as well because you're giving them a way out, but they take it
yeah,
less often if you give them a way out. So
yeah. That makes sense. I could see that working.
yeah, all of these questions they're there for a reason, right? We are there. although we want to get meetings and meetings are the outcome, we want to get the right meetings and we want to understand if this is someone we actually want to meet with. So asking questions, what have you done to try and fix this? How big is this problem for you? How many times has this happened? How long has it been happening for? What's stopping you from being able to fix it? Have you closed your mind? Although it's great and it kind of gets them to buy into you, it's you're actually doing it to try and get to the truth to see if this is someone you want to meet with and that is someone that is likely to buy your stuff. So it's important to ask these questions because we're just trying to diagnose to see if we can genuinely help them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That sounds like a good flow generally. So hopefully I can implement that one well. And then something I wanted to ask you about actually is a lot of what these successful American guys have been doing with similar go high level agency ones. They record like a short Loom video. I'm sure you've heard of like similar processes, and it's like prior to the call and it details out the offer. It's only like 5 minutes, but it basically details out the service from our side, sends it to them prior to the exploratory call. And then the exploratory call becomes a lot about what questions do you have for me? What do you think of flows like that as opposed to just going straight to the call?
It's a tough one. Test it. My what I the issue with this is you're then do it. So I believe in diagnosis before prescription, right? We're trying to diagnose to see if we can help someone. In Go High levels, there's lots of different features, lots of different bells and whistles, right? We need to understand the problem that they're suffering from. How big is it? How broad is it? And how many different things does it go to? That's the whole purpose of the sales call, right? Do they have a problem? Are they motivated to fix it? And how big and how broad is this problem? We don't know this prior to the call. So if we then go and send them an offer before we've met with them and understood all the intricacies, they might look at that and go, nah. It's almost like a doctor going to a it's like a doctor saying this is the medicine you're going to take before they've understood the problem in enough detail, and you could
Yeah.
misprescribe someone.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you do raise a good point. So I guess I'll just have to test that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with sending a loom, but I wouldn't pigeonhole yourself saying this is what you're going to get before you understand what they need.
Okay.
Because I have different variables with my offer. For example, for my lead gen business, I could be um, it, I provide data, but the client could also provide the data. If I give them an offer providing the data, and then it turns out, well, we want you to call from our data, I'm then on the back foot. And they go, well, this isn't actually what I need. And they'll say, no, 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 no. And I'm then having a bit of a fight with them to say, no, that's not what you needed. But it's a lot easier if they map it out and then you can sculpt your offer based on that.
Mm.
It's, for example, it's like with, do you watch TV?
Barely.
Okay. This would be a bit of a bad example, but it's like going into a Sky shop. All I care about is sports, movies, and the basic channels. It's like me going into a Sky shop saying, we've got 901 channels you can choose from. Look, we've got music channels, we've got the religion, we've got National Geographic. And I go, well, I just wanted the sport. Seems a bit broad for me.
Yeah.
Well, I only want the sport and movies. Why would I pay for this thing that gets 900? That seems a bit overpriced. I'm paying for 901 channels where I only need five. But if it works
So
in
in
the
this
other way
case,
round, say for example, if I went in there and someone asked me what I need, I said, "Yep, this can do it." Give it to them, and then I buy that, and then find out it has 901 channels. I'd be like, "Fucking hell, this is brilliant! I only needed X,
okay.
Y, and Z."
I see. So in this case, where there's quite a few different things like within the offer, different systems and this and that, you need to find which one they specifically care about or provides the most value to them first before you present all of it equally. And it's like it feels like you're paying for stuff you don't really need as opposed to getting stuff for bonus. Is that right?
Yeah, it's almost like being a consultant. It's like people don't buy because of how good your offer is. They buy because they genuinely believe you can help them and that you've been listened to, understood, and they trust you. The only way to do that is to actually listen, ask them questions, and understand what they need. And then if they get other things on top of that, it's a bloody bonus. They don't want the bonus before they know that you can help them. Otherwise, they're just trying to shoehorn. You're just trying to. They feel you're just trying to shoehorn them into your offer that might not. They might not need.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I will bear that one in mind. Something else I wanted to ask you about is what do you think about the use of like statistics, for example? Something I've never really heard you use, to be fair. Maybe you do in other calls, but to do with, for example, if I said 98% of customers use the internet to find and evaluate local businesses, or if I was to say, for example, leads contacted within 5 minutes are 21 times more likely to qualify than contacted after 30 minutes, something like that. Where do you see that being valuable, if at all?
It's okay written if someone reads it,
Okay.
but have you got I was going to say have you got friends? Have you got ever friends saying to you, "I'm really worried about this"? Like, say they might say, "Like, I'm really worried about. I've got a football tournament on Saturday. I'm really worried about it." Say, for example.
Every now and then.
What was that? Sorry.
Yeah, every now and then.
Yeah. So my response to that, or anyone's response, would be, "Don't worry about it, mate. You'll be fine."
Yeah, yeah.
98% of people worry about things they don't need to worry about.
Okay.
It doesn't mean people will always find reasons to argue with their data, but not their own. Your data, but not their own.
Okay.
So, like telling someone like that, it's useful to know, right? 98%, whatever. But most people will find reasons to argue why they're different or they're not the case. Because it's like it's the saying you can never reason someone out of something they were never reasoned into in the first place. This is why we have cults and all sorts. You can tell someone something else is true with a fact or a statistic. They say, no, don't care. It's not the case in my world.
Okay.
Because we've got two parts of the brain. We've got a logical brain and we've got an emotional brain. And the emotional brain's a lot stronger. So using logic to fight against emotion isn't fighting from like a sort of equal playing field. So I haven't found statistics to ever be effective.
Okay.
Unless
Yeah,
it's
I hear
like
what you're saying as well.
written on your website and people are reading them because they're choosing to read them in that instance.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It feels a bit awkward to say it, but when you read it and the numbers are presented well, I think then it can work well. So yeah, probably avoid that one for the cause itself.
People will listen to you once they feel heard and understood, but you have to make them feel heard and understood first of all before you start doing things like that. And that
Yeah,
requires questioning, listening, and being empathetic.
yeah, makes sense. Conscious of time, do have a few more questions for you.
Sure.
In the UK market, if you had 4 hours to cold call a day, which times would you choose to cold call?
It depends. Who do you want to call?
Let's say just trade businesses. Tough to put a niche down for the moment, but general trade businesses.
Right, trade businesses, I'd say, are sort of usually I'd say just whenever you can within working hours. But from my own experience, trade businesses, they do most of their work in the morning. They start early, and then they're finished by 1, 2 o'clock if they can. So if you were to call them for the highest pickup rate, from my experience, would be afternoon because they've finished on the job. So they're more likely to be, I don't know, in the office trying to do invoices, do that work. So they'll have their phone. But if they're the other time, they might be in the bathroom with their radio on, phone in the other room. Like the pickup rate's just lower. So I would, in that instance, I would push it towards more afternoon end of the day. But
And if they
in
do,
general, with if it wasn't just trades businesses, whenever you can within working hours, just do it. Don't try and optimize things like that before you've already started until you've already started cold calling. The more
Yeah,
important thing
yeah.
is just to do it. Because if you go, well, if you wake up in the morning, you go, I feel ready to cold call, but I know the best time's not to do till 2 o'clock. And then you wait till 2 o'clock and then you go, nah, I can't be asked, I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, I hear that for sure. Cool. Otherwise, so on your YouTube channel, you've got a lot of calls that perform really well. What I'd be curious in your own one, for example, let's say you get through to the person on the other side of the phone. What percentage of cases does it just basically end in that? Have you got 30 seconds for me? Like, what do your real numbers actually look like in terms of these follow through rates?
So in terms of people that hear the pitch out,
Yeah, and even just dropping out throughout the whole process, maybe like what percent of people actually get booked onto a call, this and that. It's just useful to know in terms of mindset.
so in my telephone prospecting agency, my call to so that people that hear out the 30-second pitch through to meeting booked is 1 in 10.
Yeah.
In terms of from saying you're probably going to hate me, it's a sales call, do you want to hang up or let me have 30 seconds through to pitch, it's about 70%
Okay.
because people are in the middle of things, they don't want to speak, etc. So I say 1 in 10 conversations, that's a key metric I care about. Um, but your mileage will vary, and the variables you got to work with is what you're saying to people, how you're saying it to them, and who you're talking to. They're the three variables you've got to consider in order to that will play into a fact of that metric. And the better you get, the lower that gets.
Okay.
But the whole
Yeah, that
purpose
makes
of
sense.
prospecting is you're sorting through rocks, you're polishing mud to find gold.
Yeah.
Like that, you're going to speak to people who aren't interested, and that's good. That's a good outcome because there's no point turning someone not interested to interested. I don't care about my girlfriend's nails. There's nothing she could do or convince me to go get my nails done because I just don't care about it. There's no point me meeting with a nail person. So you've got to know your customers and you've got to understand if they have a problem that wants to be addressed. One thing I'd also suggest, Eric, as well, is there's a principle called dog fooding. So software businesses use it a lot. They use their own software, so they test their own software and they use their own software to sell to other people. With Go High Level, dog fooding's perfect. You want to eat your own dog food. So when you are cold calling people, you want to, and then they're interested, you want to then give them the Go High Level experience through you. Follow ups, meeting requests, the nurture cadences, so they know what they're going to get because that's going to be part of your selling process. For example, when people hear me cold call, when I'm selling for my uh, agency, the cold call is itself how I act and behave on the phone is part of the selling process.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So for you using Go High Level and them being sort of part of the sequence or the way they're set up within that, that's very important for them, for you to help improve your conversion rates. Because they'll be like, fuck, this guy's really good with this.
Yeah.
I want to do
That
this for
makes
my
sense.
customers. If I did this, like this would be dreamy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for that. I'll bear that in mind. Otherwise, just curious as well, back to the acting point earlier about like tonality and this and that. What would be like your best mindset tips of how do you actually just keep consistent with that the whole day? Like even now, is that something you find draining? Is it no problem for you or what?
As in the calling itself,
Yeah, and just having to keep that same like acting tonality of like you're probably gonna hate me for this, and you know what I mean? That whole acting. Is that something you find difficult even now, or is it just second nature at this point?
it's like learning to drive a car. You got to fake it till you make it. You got to make the mistakes. You got to keep just you just got to keep going, making sure you do the left hand turn properly, the right hand turn, delivering it to the best of your ability, and eventually it just becomes second nature to you, and that's just then your baseline, and you don't have to think about it. But you have to kind of go through this dip of struggling, being frustrated, learning from your mistakes, and just stacking each skill. and eventually it just becomes just like, so I get to the end of the day sometimes and I go, shit, I haven't used my brain all day. And it then just becomes autopilot. When you're driving a car and you get from point A to point B and you're like, I don't remember changing from third gear to fourth gear, or I don't remember stopping when that car was coming around the corner. I don't remember using my brain at all. You just got to keep just practicing it over and over again, sleeping well, and it'll just become subconscious after a while. Again, I'm always still trying to improve my tonality, and yeah, there are different things you can do to improve that. Reading books aloud, practicing your script in the mirror, and just really giving it that oomph and listening back to your recording, seeing how you sound, seeing how people are responding to how you're saying things, working with a voice actor or a voice coach to improve how you deliver things. There's all these different things you can do to improve them that only benefit you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sounds like a lot of practice, and that's the way.
Yes, it is. I'd love to say it was a 1 week fix, but it's a skill like anything else. It takes months and years of just day in day out practice, and eventually it becomes part of you. It does get better with time, but it's mucky.
Yeah.
But once you've mastered it, you'll never be short of work again. That's what I found. So, and it's a skill that can help you with whatever business you do.